It's another episode of Laundro Chat, but today I am doing the 5 Regrets tag hosted by Miss V. So if you want to see the 5 things that I regret most in my life, keep watching. Welcome to This and That with Denise Jordan. I teach women how to make wise home health and beauty decisions so there's less chaos in their homes, they lead healthier lives, and they feel beautiful from the inside out. And today, I'm sharing with you 5 things that I regret in my life. And who knows, there could be a bonus thrown in. Miss V, I tell you what, that little sweetheart comes up with some of the most interesting challenges. And this one is the 5 things we regret. And I took a couple of days to think about this because I really wanted to be succinct, but I also wanted to be of service. And of course there are things in my life that I regret that I'm not willing to share, but there are some things that I think I feel like I should share. So let's get it started. But before we jump into that, if you're new to my channel and you want to learn more about running a household, cooking and cleaning and laundry and health and beauty, subscribe. I do videos about those topics all the time, and I also do product reviews about products that I frequently use in my home or things that I think you might want to use in your home. So if you want to learn more about those things, then hit the subscribe button, but certainly check out the links in the show notes below because that's where I will put information about my favorite housekeeping and gardening solutions. And yes, these are affiliate links, and so if you click on them, I might receive a little compensation, so thank you very much. Okay, so let's jump into the tag. V asked us to think about things that we regret in our lives, and I have quite a few. But there are 5 or 6 that I will definitely share with you today. And I guess I should be folding this laundry while I'm doing that because this is supposed to be a laundro chat. And one of the first things that I will share with you is that I regret that I did not get my PhD or my DNS, which is a Doctoral of Nursing Sciences. I got my bachelor's, that was my first nursing program. I got a Bachelor of Science in Nursing. And then I got a job teaching nursing years later. And so we were required to get our Master's of Science in Nursing, which I did. And I remember when I completed my Master's, I think Jill and Jason were about, 8 years old, 8 or 9 years old. Justin was a baby. And it was just so hard going to graduate school and working full time and trying to raise 3 children and be a wife. So I finished my master's degree and I thought, God, I don't want to have to go back to school again. But there were 2 girls that I was working with at the time, Mary Kay and Carla, and we had 3 of us struggled to get our master's program, and we each went to a different master's degree program and had different struggles, but we had said when we got ready to work on our doctorates we'd do it together. Well, when they got ready to work on their doctorates, I thought, no thank you, I just didn't want any parts of it. And where I was working at the time, I was teaching nursing at a community college, and it wasn't required. It would have been nice, but not too many people had their doctoral degree where I was working, so I thought, you know what, I don't need it. I just don't want the aggravation, and really didn't want to spend the money, even though the college would have given me money to help support that. Well, fast forward 30 years, I wish I had gotten that doctoral degree. When I left the community college and went to the university, well, needless to say, most people had their PhD. If they didn't have a PhD, they had a DNS, which is a Doctoral of Nursing Science. And so when I took that position, I indicated that I probably would work on the degree. Well, after I got there, it took me a couple of years to really acclimate to my new role and the new expectations of the program and the students and that kind of thing. And I thought, you know what? I'm only probably going to work 5 or 6 more years. I just didn't want to put in all that time, another 2 years to get the degree, and didn't plan to work that long. So I didn't do it. I realize now I should have did that for me, because I regret not having my PhD or my DNS. Not that somebody else having one is any smarter than me, because of course they're not. But what it does show is that they persevered and I didn't. And I guess the other thing is that sometimes having those credentials do make people look at you just a little bit differently. And one of the things that I've had to struggle with as an African American and as an African American professional in the healthcare arena, sometimes you walk in the room and you're perceived as less than what you are. So that's one of my regrets, that I didn't get my PhD. Now the other thing that I regret is that I did not put more money in my retirement fund. I'm not saying that I don't have a healthy retirement fund, because I do. But what I realize now is that it's not enough. So I tell all young people, whatever you're putting in, double it. And the reason why I say that is because, and I don't think I was a spendthrift. I don't think I spent a lot of money, but evidently, I guess I did. But I have to really think about purchases now. It's like I have to prioritize. I'm not saying that I don't have everything I need, because I do. I'm not saying I don't have most of the things that I want, because I do. But if I want to go out and buy a bunch of new camera equipment, or if I want to go out and spend a couple $100s on makeup, I have to prioritize now. I think, okay, so if I've got to do this, then I can't do that. And not that I shouldn't have been prioritizing and budgeting better always, but I did not. I just realized now that what I didn't do then, I'm forced to do now. I have to think about purchases and prioritize. So I wish that I had saved more money. And the thing about when you're young and they tell you to save for a rainy day, you don't think that rainy day is coming. But I tell you what, since I've been retired, it's like my husband had to have work done on his transmission. The air conditioner unit is starting to struggle, so we had to have somebody come out and service that. And they're like, you might want to start putting aside some money, because y'all going to need a new unit probably by next year. And that's like a $5,000 investment to have that taken care of. And it's like there's always something that is just happening. And I guess, just like an old car, things start to break down, and then you have to pull on your reserves to take care of those things. So do I wish I had saved more money? Yes. And one of the huge regrets that I have is that I did not write for the American Girl series, Abby. Now you're probably thinking, what? Well, one of the things that I have not talked about on my channel at all is that I am an author. I've written quite a few children's books, probably at least 30. And I've done some magazine writing, but I mostly write in the children's book genre. And we were at a meeting of our SCBWI, the Society of Book Writers and Illustrators, Children's Book Writers and Illustrators, something like that. And one of the members said, American Girl's going to start a new series, and they want to write about a girl named Abby. And so they're seeking submissions. And I thought about it, and I thought, I don't think I want to do that. And I remember, I think it was Helen Frost said, Denise, I think you want to try that. And I thought, I don't think I want to try that. So I didn't. And then, of course, somebody else tried it. And not in our group, but when those kind of calls go out, they go out all over the country. And somebody else wrote the story of Abby. And I'm sure most of you know about Abby in the American Girl series. Don't you know I can kick myself in the butt every day for not trying? It's not to say that if I had submitted something, I would have gotten chosen. But I didn't even try. I don't know why. I don't know what was wrong with me that I just didn't try. And I think it was at the time, I just didn't want to write about that era. But you know what the history is. I mean, Abby was huge. And there's still a little American girl named Abby. It's a little black girl that was during the time of slavery. And people still buy those dolls. And they still read those stories. And whereas there's no new stories about Abby, children are still reading the old ones. And I just hate that I missed out on that opportunity. So it was an opportunity missed, and I was prepared. I just didn't open the door. So there's that. So since I had mentioned that I'm a children's book writer, I thought I would show you a few of the things that I've done. This is Spider magazine, and I'll give you a close-up. But it is like the creme de la creme of magazines for children. It's a children's literary magazine. And one of the first short stories that I had published in Spider magazine. I had two published in Spider, and I'm very pleased with it. And this is one of my first books. And this particular book was about Susie King Taylor, a runaway slave who was one of the first documented black nurses. And I remember when I had called this editorial house and I was talking to one of the editors, and she said she was looking for someone to write about this particular topic. And I said, oh, I can do that. I said, as a matter of fact, I just wrote a piece about this person in a talk that I did last week. And I had done a talk for my sorority regional the week before about the history of blacks in nursing. And I had laid the book about Susie King Taylor on the table. Hadn't read it, but I knew who she was talking about when she said it. And so I said, oh, I can do that. And then she was like, well, we need to have this manuscript in by such and such a date. I'm like, oh, I can do that. And then she said something else she needed. I'm like, oh, I can do that. She said, okay, fine. Well, oh, I know. She said they needed a proposal in by a such and such date. I'm like, oh, I can do that. And I hung up the phone, and it was like, how am I going to do that? But I figured it out, and this was the first book that I actually had published. And then I also wrote for a house called Heinemann, and I wrote this one, the series on Harlem Renaissance artists, the biography of Julian Bond. I'm particularly proud of this one. And I also did a series on the circus. So there's like 6 books in this series, and they come in hardback and paperback. And then there's this series on holidays, and this particular one is Diwali, which is an Indian holiday. So I've got quite a few children's books that I've done and articles, and I've also done some things professionally, but it's not something I talk a lot about on my YouTube channel. One of the other regrets that I have is that I did not go to my college graduation. In nursing school, you have pinning, which you get your nursing pin, and you don't get the pin until you've completed the program. So it's one of those ending ceremonies where you wear your uniform and your nurse's hat, and you get pinned, and your family's all there. It's kind of like a graduation. When schools of nursing were associated with hospitals, they had a pinning ceremony, and that was their terminal ceremony. Well, when nursing became collegiate, they still had the pinning ceremony, but then you would also have commencement with the university. And I regret that I did not go to commencement. And part of that, there's a whole lot of dynamics that led to that. One of which is that I got pregnant junior year. And I tell you what, that was pretty shocking in as of itself, that here I was, a junior in nursing school, and I was pregnant and not married. And the biggest issue with that is, we're looking, like 1970s, so it was still pretty much a stigma to be pregnant and unmarried. And the year before, there was a girl in the class ahead of us that got pregnant, and they kicked her out of school. I mean, she was kicked out of nursing school because she was pregnant. So when I got pregnant, we moved up the wedding. I got married right away. So I wasn't kicked out of school, but I didn't live in the dorm anymore either. But that being said, we lived out of town. So I didn't have a lot of family support to help me with the babies. I had a set of twins. So my family came down for pinning, and my mom had been ill. She'd been in the hospital, so she got out of the hospital. My family drove down for pinning, and they were there for that. But commencement was the next day, and they had all gone back home. So I wasn't going to have anybody at commencement. The job that my husband had, he had dropped out of school his senior year to support the family. And the job that he had, he worked 6 days, and then you were off a day. And it wasn't like you had every Monday off, every Tuesday off. You worked 6 days in a row, and then you're off. And then 6 days in a row, and then you're off. So if the days that you were off fell on a holiday, good. And if it wasn't, too bad. So he had to work the day that I had commencement, so he couldn't come. I wasn't going to have any family members there, and I didn't have anybody to watch the babies. So I thought, what the heck, I just won't go. Well, what I didn't think about until much, much later is that there were people that would be at commencement that I would never get to see again. And I regret that. I regret that I did not participate in that termination ceremony. So needless to say, when I graduated from my master's program, whereas a lot of people just bagged it and didn't bother to go, trust me, I was there. And my husband was there, and my children were there. They were in high school at the time, but it was just nice to be able to go through that ceremony. Well, my laundry's all folded, so I guess I better speed this up since this is supposed to be a laundro chat. One of the other things that I regret is not getting braces for my daughter. She's one of the twins, and her twin brother got braces, but she didn't. And he had a really bad problem. He had this traditional Jordan jaw, so the real small lower jaw and then protruding upper teeth, and he just really needed to have that taken care of. And it was about $5,000 at the time. And she has a gap between her teeth, but other than that, her teeth were fine. And so I thought, well, hers is cosmetic, whereas his is more than that, so we'll get his done and not hers. What I didn't think about, what I didn't understand until years later, was the effect that that gap in her teeth would have on her self-esteem, on her confidence. Now, she has since overcome all of that, but if I just could step back and correct that oversight, I would do that. Now, you ladies are going to laugh at this, but one of the other things that I regret is spending $500 on a handbag. And I have now come to the decision that just because you can doesn't mean you should. But I was at a Weight Watchers meeting one day, and I had my handbag with me, and this lady comes in and takes a seat beside me, and I look over, and she's got the same handbag. And I'm like, oh, we have the same bag. She's like, yeah, I got mine at Marshall's, and it costs blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, what? Because I'm thinking mine cost a whole lot more than what she paid for hers. And I realized then that I didn't need to do that. Just like she waited until either it went on sale or she found it at Marshall's or TJ Maxx at half the price of what I paid for it. It was certainly an eye-opener. And so I just decided from that day forward, I'm not spending more than $300 on a handbag. And even today, $300 might be a push. I'm just asking myself, like, well, why do I need to do that? So if you look at any of the handbags you might see in my videos, and none of them are new because I'm not going like that anymore. I just decided not to do it. Now, this particular piece of advice is just a little extra, and I don't know. I kind of thought long and hard about whether or not I should say this, but I try to be real with the young wives that come to my channel. So let me just say this. I wish I had been more open to some of the suggestions or invitations that I had been given by my husband. When we were younger, he liked to go out a lot. And I like to go out too, but sometimes, when you're raising kids, it just wasn't always convenient. And he really liked to go to hole in the walls and bars. And I did not like hole in the walls, and I certainly didn't like smoky bars. So a lot of the times I would stay home and he would go. I'll just put it this way. Whereas you may not like to do those things, there are other women out there that do. So you need to figure out a way to compromise, if for no other reason than to look out for your interests. And I'll just leave it at that. So I've got all my laundry folded. I guess I'll get it put away. But before I do that, let me just thank V for hosting this challenge. She always comes up with something just a little bit unusual. Her and that Kimberly Davis, that Diva Designing on a Dime, always comes up with something that really makes you think. So I really want to thank her for hosting this challenge and making me just kind of take a step down memory lane and look at some of the things that I have regretted and have the opportunity to share those with all of you. So my question for you is, which part of my regrets do you find most interesting? Tell me in the comment section below. And just so you know, I've raised 3 children. I've managed to stay married for more than 45 years. And I am a nurse by profession. So if you want to learn more about running a household, cooking and cleaning and laundry and planning and health and beauty, subscribe. I would love to have you as a member of the TNT community. And if you want to learn more about me, check out some of the other tag videos that I've done. I'll link the playlist of the other tags I've done in one of the iCards, and also I'll link it below so that you can take a look at that. And do take a look at my summer kitchen tour. I am just so proud of that. So anyway, I'm starting to ramble. This is Denise Jordan saying goodbye. I'll see you in the next video.